Something strange is happening with the Winnipeg Jets. Head coach Scott Arniel can't understand it. The players can't describe it, and we're going to try our best to dissect it on this episode of Hat-Trick HQ and Winnipeg Jets Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 72% of you who watch these videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. 90% of you over on Jets Digest are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on in the NHL and the Winnipeg Jets, it's free. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, something weird, strange, unexplainable, really, and we're going to break it down with some quotes from players and head coach Scott Arniel, is happening with the Winnipeg Jets this season. And, you know, despite their great start to the season, they struggled a little bit in December, and obviously now they're back to playing really, really well. Early December, I should say, late November. They're back to playing like themselves earlier this season. But something that is unexplained this season is their play in front of backup goalie Eric Comrie. It's preposterous. I'll put it that way. I can't understand it. This is from Mike McIntyre. Saturday night was their 8th straight loss for the Winnipeg Jets when Eric Comrie is in goal, with his teammates scoring a grand total of 12 goals for him this season. So obviously, or in that span, I should say, in the last 8 games. Eric Comrie has not won a game in 8 starts, right? This is seriously, and we'll get to it later in the video, going to affect his confidence going forward and the rest of the season. They've only scored 12 goals. Again, it's going to affect his confidence in by way of he hasn't won in 8 games. Obviously, his confidence is going to be shaky next time he comes in net, and they're going to need him. We'll get into the schedule later in this video as well. They're going to need him coming up, and they need him anyway, right? Connor Hellebuyck can't do everything, and he has been doing a lot so far this season. The offense is carried at times, and Connor Hellebuyck is carried at other times. And obviously, when you have Connor Hellebuyck on your team, you're going to win more games than you lose. But Eric Comrie coming in relief, they need to pick up some wins when he's in net, and they have not been doing that. Again, they're giving him no support. And this is from Scott Arniel on the Eric Comrie situation, or whatever you want to call it, who has been playing well. I will say that as well. We'll get into his stats in just a second. Eric Comrie has been playing well even in these losses. They just have not been scoring for him. They cannot score for him. And he went on to say, I have no idea why we can't score when he's in net. We're the highest scoring team in the league, and it just seems like we can't get him any run support. He gives us a chance every night. And for those of you who say Eric Comrie is not great, because I've seen some of it in the comments, I've seen some of it online as well, Eric Comrie is a good goalie, and we'll get into his stats right now. On the season, Eric Comrie has 11 games played. He only has 3 wins, again, on an 8-game losing streak. But if you look at his goals against average, it's only 2.87, which I think goals against average is more of a team stat anyway. His save percentage is .904. Now, he's no Connor Hellebuyck, right? Like, you can't compare this guy and his stats to Connor Hellebuyck. But league average goaltending this year is hovering really between, like, at a 901, so he's above average in that way. And it's really hovering between a, 898 and 905, let's say, right? It's really hovering around there, and I think league average right now is 901, 902. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Mention it in the comments if I am, but I believe it's somewhere in that area. So Eric Comrie, when he is playing, even though he's lost 8 straight games, they're not scoring for him. He is playing at an above average rate, at least in save percentage. I'll put it that way. You can say what you want about the advanced analytics as well. I think he's actually been playing well despite the losses. So head coach Scott Arniel and captain Adam Lowry and Kyle Connor each commented on Eric Comrie and the inability to score when he is in net, because this is becoming a serious problem for the Winnipeg Jets at this point, because you need to pick up wins when Eric Comrie's in net. Again, like I said, it cannot be an automatic loss whenever Connor Hellebuyck is not in your net, right? You're a good enough team that shouldn't be the case. So Adam Lowry on Eric Comrie. I feel bad for the guy. He's played amazing all year. He's great in the locker room, works so hard day in, day out. He's the first guy on the ice, last guy off. At some point, we've got to find a way. Off shin pads or banging a few for him, because he's battling his heart out for us. We are not getting the results for him that he deserves. So everyone's pretty much sharing the same sentiment that this is not a bad goalie. This is not a goalie that's playing bad. He's playing well. They can't score for him for whatever reason. We've seen the Jets have won games 7-0 this year, and Connor Hellebuyck gets a shutout where he only makes like 20, 22 saves. We've seen that. Where's that when Eric Comrie is in net? Now, I do believe, I am a big believer in everything flows through your goaltender, right? Like, if your goaltender is hot, you have one of the best goaltenders in the league, your entire team is going to play with much more confidence in that way. So maybe subconsciously him losing all these games, they're playing tight. They're not playing as loose that when Connor Hellebuyck's in net. And I mean, anybody could be in net in the backup position role. He's not Connor Hellebuyck, right? At the end of the day, he's not going to give you that confidence. So maybe subconsciously there's something there with the Winnipeg Jets this year where they just are playing more tight, more afraid to let up goals, and they're not focusing on playing their game and scoring, because we know they have a potent offense, right? They can score at will, it seems, this year. So that's what Adam Lowry is. Everyone seems to be sharing the same sentiment, and Scott Arniel, he expanded what he was saying as well. And he did say that Eric Comrie is actually taking this very hard on himself, despite, you look at the stat line, it's not that bad in my estimation, but he shouldn't be, because he's given us the chance every time he goes out there. Guys are great with him. They really are. And they know that they've got to get him some run support. Hopefully we have one of those ones where we break out big time, where we can get him that win by us supporting him with some goals. They're just not scoring when he's in net. I mean, 12 goals in the last 8 games when Eric Comrie's in net. That's not good enough, especially for this team that we know to be, again, high octane offense all year long, especially the power play was clicking at an unbelievable rate earlier in the season, pretty much still is right now. And he went on to say he's extremely popular in the room. He's one of the last guys off the ice. Everyone's saying the same things about Eric Comrie. He's a great guy. He works very hard. He's real good. He's loud. He's fun. Him and Helly have a fantastic relationship, which is another thing you want. Backup goalies to be able to put your starting goalie in their happy place and make sure everyone's feeling good, right? So honestly, the guys are they're more upset, again, that we didn't get him the win. They needed to get him that win, and they need to get him, some support in terms of offense, right? He is doing, I think, a pretty good job right now. So on Saturday night against the Flames, once again, the Jets weren't able to generate enough goal support for backup goaltender Eric Comrie. We are not getting the results for him that he deserves. And I thought this was a very interesting snippet from that article, that the worry lies in the impact that this type of stretch could have on Comrie. I think that the most important thing coming out of this is he's playing well, but they're still losing, and seeing that losing streak and losing games every time you're in the net might have a psychological effect on his play. And I thought that was very interesting, and an interesting observation too. And you're the backup goalie and one of the best teams in the NHL, and over the last 2 months you've been in net for 8 of their 12 losses over that time, which the Jets have not lost a lot this season. So that will wear on a player, and it is a tough situation. When you look at this team, this is a team that should be able to provide you offense. So I don't know what it is about Eric Comrie being in net that doesn't allow them, again, maybe they're playing tight. I think it's very, very interesting in that way. But let me know in the comments what you think about the Jets' problem, if you want to call it that. I think this is just very strange. I wouldn't say this is necessarily a problem, because they're still rolling. They're top of the Central Division. They'll probably finish top of the Central Division at the end of the season, just the way they've been going and firing on all cylinders. But let me know in the comments what you think. I think it's just very strange. And if they, they can be a lot better. They can be picking up a couple more wins here and really separate themselves from the 2nd and 3rd seed in the Central. But again, let me know what you think in the comments. I think it's just very strange. And hopefully Eric Comrie can pick up a win in his next game. It's going to be obviously another interesting stretch here on the schedule. You're playing Utah twice over the course of this week. You're playing Colorado. These are some big games, especially against Colorado, and then some opponents that are fighting for their lives as well in Montreal and Boston. So it's going to be very interesting in that way. But let me know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button on Hattrick HQ and Winnipeg Jets Digest to stay up to date with everything NHL and Winnipeg Jets.